Hello, fellow Chief AI Officers. This is Sherry Kotvis, Chief AI Officer with CAIO. I am proud to present today Claude Cowork for Business. I have been asked to do an overview of what I know about Claude Cowork at this point to the group. So that is exactly what I'm sharing today. I have a brief agenda. I'm going to show you where to go to sign up and access Claude Cowork if you have not already done so. I'm going to walk you through some core features and benefits of Claude Cowork and show you some plugins and the capabilities of on a broader scope, and then how it relates to chief AI officers and how we can actually use it in our services division. Then I'm going to show you a couple of very brief business cases that I've used in my own workflow. And I'll show you what I feel is a really great foundational setup for your Claude Cowork. Feel free to use it or use your own methodology. However, I think it's a really great starting point because the studies show that most people that start using Claude Cowork, they don't really set up their accounts properly, kind of similar to what we see with the basic LLMs. So to get started, this is the Claude support page where you can go through the various features and benefits and how to download the application on your desktop. I happen to have an Apple, so I just simply clicked the Mac desktop operating system. It was very easy to do, very simple. It only take a matter of a few minutes. And when I did this, I did use my Chief AI Officer environment to set it up because that is where I plan to be using Claude Cowork so that I can better assist customers when we're thinking about solving problems for them. So I decided I wanted to use it within the Chief AI Officer environment. You can go through this Claude support website and it will walk you through a lot of the things that it does do. I have not done all of these features and benefits yet. I'm literally just about a week and a half into using Claude Cowork. I have used under the capabilities, I have used the direct local file access feature, and I have used the presentation feature and a little bit of the workflow and scheduling tasks. And I'll go ahead and show that to you today. So this also shows you Cowork runs directly on your computer, giving basically what it does is you're giving Claude Code access to all your files, but you can select which files you want to give it access to by turning off the plugins or removing the plugins. Very easy to control. It also walks you through kind of the getting started requirements here. It's a very, in my opinion, very user-friendly platform. I have also been using Claude Code, and I have kind of been comparing the two, and the main differences I see between Cowork and Code is that the Cowork version is a more user-friendly version, but you're basically getting a lot of the same output you would be getting in Claude Code from what I can tell. I'm not a power user in either one yet, but I do see a lot of similarities. The Claude Code it shows you the coding that's going on literally right in your terminal so you can follow along. And then there's a lot of prompting involved. There's a lot of, for me anyway, I was going back and forth between my my guide, which I use Claude, and then the terminal to create the content, to create the project or create the product. So I was doing a lot of toggling back and forth. So there was a lot of back and forth. With Claude Cowork, it's all contained within one environment. So I think to me, that's the main difference I see. And I don't know if Claude Cowork does the sophisticated applications that I do believe Code does have the capability of. So more to come on that, and there may be some viewers in here like Allison, where she's really well versed in some of these areas. But that's my initial reaction for anyone that's wanting to compare the two. I think you can use either one, but Claude Cowork might be the more direct path to getting to the end result that you're looking for. Anyway, that's just my take on it. So those are the basics of Claude Cowork. And the next thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you my Claude Cowork platform. And I'll show you some of the things that I've done with it. I'll kind of walk you through what it looks like so you know what you can expect and start to realize some of the capabilities that it does have, so that maybe you can start thinking about how can I use this to help solve client problems. So more to come on that. So we'll see you in the next phase of this training. So the next phase of this training is to set up our Claude Cowork. I pulled up this X document that Chris Daigle provided to me, and I decided, since I was very new at working with Claude Cowork, that this would be a really great foundation to set up from the get-go. This article from J.J. Engelbert, it says that out of the box, Claude Cowork is good, but with the right context structure, it goes from being a generic assistant to an executive level partner. So you can read this document. I can provide a link to it. And it's basically saying that now every session, it feels like picking up a conversation with an executive assistant. And he mentions that the difference is context. Most people open Cowork and they start from scratch. And admittedly, this is what I did the first time I tried it. But then I decided I'm going to go ahead and set up my foundation so that it does act as my executive assistant. So here's what he recommends you do. You build out a folder structure that acts as Claude's long-term memory with custom skill files in each folder, so it knows exactly how it wants each type of content to be written. So he said connected Slack, Gmail, Google Calendar, and Notion, so it can pull real data instead of guessing. Installed memory plugin, and then the combination of those three, he said, changed everything. So what he recommends you do is you go through each of these phases, starting with phase 0. And you go into the plugins and connections. And before you start building anything, he recommends installing the productivity plugin and then the memory plugin. I could not find the memory plugin. So during my prompting, I asked it to locate the memory plugin for me, and it was able to do that. So I'll show that to you. After I did my plugins, I started following the bouncing ball. The phase 1, I wanted it to interview me and create an about me file, ask about my work, background, content channels, etc. I went ahead and plugged that into Cowork, and it asked me a series of questions. After that, it wants me to prompt in my brand voice, which I did. The next phase I did was phase 3, working preference. I gave it my working preferences. Phase 4, content strategy, if applicable. So if you have a content strategy, then this is where you would put that. He's a social media person, so he has a lot of social media posts, target audience, that type of thing. So you would just, put it in according to your type of business. Phase 5, if you have a team, this is where you would plug in teams. I actually put a placeholder for this for future reference. I don't have a team right now, but I'm thinking that possibly this could be used when I am working with a client. Team members could be possibly plugged in here. I don't know yet. Then the next phase was any active projects. This is where you would simply, you would ask Claude to interview you one question at a time about projects, goals, milestones, etc. The next phase was memory system. You just punch this in and you ask it to update Claude. Everything we built, create a memory directory with subfolders. So I have a subfolder set up now. And then phase 8, skill files. Review everything for any area where I need specific recurring output. Offer to create a dedicated skill file with format, voice rules, examples. So you can see below here, he has a pretty extensive file. Mine is very small right now, but I do have one started for Sherry's Cowork workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, and then I'm going to show you my Cowork. I'm sorry, yes, my Cowork. And this is where I plugged in the phases of setting it up right here. And it's called an About Me file. So I went through the process. I answered all of the questions, and I made sure that it was in memory and that it set up my files for me. So now I'm good to go. I've got everything set up so that every time I use it, it's going to draw from this information to make sure that everything is sorted properly, everything is in files, it knows my voice, etc. So I went through that exercise. Then what I did for the next project was I went to customization, and this is where you can set up your connectors. I apologize, I did the connectors first. So I did the connectors, which was I connected Slack, my Gmail account, Google Calendar, Google Drive, anything that I feel is relevant to using within Chief AI Officer. And I connected those plugins right into Claude Cowork. So now I've got my About Me file set up. I have all of my connectors set up, and I'm good to go. So now I can start to create a new task. The first task that I did was I wanted to, for me, I find that the Slack channel is a little challenging. It's a little hard to follow, and I wanted a better way to manage it. So I decided that I wanted to build some type of a scheduler where I could see what was going on in the Slack channel on a regular basis. So I went ahead and I decided that I wanted to run a alert for myself every morning at 7 a.m., 7 days a week, so I could see any activity that was going on in Slack. And now what I have is I set up the task, and that would have been in um, let's see here, that was build basic automation workflow. So now what I did is I just simply told it, can you build a basic automation for me with Slack? And it said, sure, it can. So here's what I did. And now what I have is I have a morning Slack digest. Every morning at 7 a.m., it's going to run a Slack digest for me automatically. Now I can also run one right now. So it will tell me if anything is happening right now, something new that I didn't see during the day. So it's running it for me at the moment. You can see it's going to run. So it could resolve the problem of going into Slack and searching for posts, searching for items that you're not really sure what's going on in the community. But this is kind of a way for me to know if there's new updates and whatnot. One of the things I did do when I set this up is I wanted it to prioritize certain messages. So if something came in from uh, let's say Chris Daigle, I wanted it to be marked as a priority, so it would have a red pin next to it. And now notice also it allows me to actually view it right in Slack. It opened it up, but it doesn't show on my screen. That's not a shared screen for Slack, but it will open it up right in Slack as well. Okay, so these are some really simple automations that can be set up pretty easily. All I did was I gave it the instructions. I said, can you set up an automation for me in Slack? I gave it a little bit of instruction, but it basically set it up for me. I just told it I want priorities for certain people. I gave it a screenshot of all the channels so it knew what channels I was interested in getting notifications on, which is actually all of the channels I'm in. And now here you can see this is one from the other day. It's showing me action required items. This is a Slack notification. And then this shows me another notification where I was directly tagged by Allison from the CRISP training. And it shows me some content around what that Slack message was. The first time I set it up, I just wanted notifications, but then I thought, well, I'd rather see what the content of the notification is rather than just getting the notification. So I did a little bit of revisions on this, and this is my end result. So now what I get is I get these morning Slack updates every morning. And you can set the parameters up if this is something you want to do, if you like the idea of knowing about what's happening in Slack without going into Slack. You can set these parameters up however you choose. But as long as you have your plugin set up under customization, you have your Slack plugin, it'll work for you. The next thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to try and connect my Slack notifications to my Gmail account. So I'm going to experiment with that next to see if that's something that will work. So I think this is a really a simple, simple automation that could be set up by anyone. And you kind of see the possibilities of when you're using the plugin feature and you're asking for some type of automation. Now you can see the little blue button here. That means that that runtime is done. And I've got some new notifications in here. So it looks like there's been some activity. So here's an example of when I said I wanted like the priorities to be in red. Now, Chris Daigle is not the one sending this, but his name is in here. So I may work around that to see if I can modify that a little bit. But you can see how it's categorized, the digest. These are like action items. These are good to knows, and then these are notable threads. It also will tell me if my name is mentioned in any of these. So I know that that's something that I need to address right away. But I do like this feature. There's another way you can actually view this in a Google page. I'm not sure if I want another thing I have to go to. So I'm still playing around with this, but I just wanted to share this with you. And you can see here on the right hand side, it's got the instructions here. It has the content here. And then here's my connector that I'm using. Now I could probably even add perhaps my Google Gmail to this connector. So I am definitely going to play around with that to see if I can add another connector to this. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to be showing you one more demo of what I did to experiment with a contract. So we'll talk about that in the next section. So we are on the last portion of this presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to examine how we can take an existing contract that has already been completed. It's a boiler template contract, but the contract has already been already populated with some client information. And the goal of this exercise is to extract the information from an existing contract and replace it with new contract information. So it's a little more than taking a template contract. It's actually pulling out information and replacing it. So I wanted to see if this would work using Cowork. And it did actually work. So I'm going to show you a basic workflow of what I'm going to be walking you through. We're going to be able to create the workspace with a folder, and it's going to consist of some new client fields. We're going to take my dummy contract that I created, and we're going to put that into Cowork, and we're going to ask it to convert this into this is instructions that I actually got from Cowork, that we need to take a PDF document. It can't read a PDF document. So we have to convert that PDF document into a text document. So we're going to take that dummy contract I created. That's a PDF file. We're going to extract it into a text file. Then we're going to replace all of the fields with the new information of a new contract. And we're going to run it, and hopefully the output is going to show the new contract information. Then the last step I want to show is how this can be turned into an automation. So the initial prompt I gave it was to just extract the information from one contract and replace it with the information of a new contract. But I wanted to take it a step further and see if this could be automated. And I got this idea from one of our Monday calls where it sounded like there was a client that had this similar situation where they were trying to figure out a way to do what I just described. So I would love to hear feedback on this to see if this is something that has been implemented with this client, or to see if there's some other ideas. So this is the workflow I wanted to show you. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share my screen again. With my Claude Code Cowork. So here's my dashboard again. And what I did when I was trying to figure out if this would work, I started out by going into chat and I just basically, I asked the question. I wanted to know if this is something, because I'm fairly new at using Cowork, I wanted to know if this is a capability of Cowork. So I actually typed in a question, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what that question is. Can I upload a document using Cowork and automate modifications, changes on the fly? For example, I have a document from a client they use frequently, yet content of the document needs to be changed. The contract, it is a boilerplate. However, the fields have already been filled in. I need to replace the original fields completed with new information for a new client. This could be as long as a 50-page contract. So I went ahead and asked Chat Claude if I could do that. And the response I got was that, yes, it can. So I wanted to show you what we got. Yes, Sherry, this is actually a solid workflow. There are some important nuances you'll want to know before building this into a client workflow. Here's the full picture. What Cowork can handle. Cowork has built-in skills, and the PDF skills goes beyond basic reading to support merging, splitting, and form filling. Cowork's core strengths are file-centric tasks that would normally require a mix of manual work and scripting, including extracting structured data from inputs and generating finished deliverables saved directly to your file system. For your contract replacement use case specifically, Cowork can read a filled-in contract, identify and replace names filled, save the modification version as a new file. So it's telling me some of the things that it can do. So this is the key variable for a 50-page contract. And I'm not 100% sure native Google Doc requires conversion first. Okay, I understand that. So document editing requires not native Google document formats. Compatibility isn't automatic. The bottom line, if the client's contract is a Word file, you're in great shape. If it's a PDF, it depends on whether it's a true text-based PDF or a scanned document. So this is telling us how the workflow works. We're going to be dropping the contract into Cowork, and then we're going to include a reference sheet, and then we're going to have a prompt. So I'm going to walk us through what this actually is going to look like. So I created a dummy contract, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the prompt that we were given in the chat, copy and paste, and it says here, read old contract and the field replacement list. So I'm giving it instructions Do not overwrite the original. And I'm just going to click Let's Go. And then what I need to do is I need to upload my contract. I probably should have done that before I put that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and look for that right now while it's thinking. One thing I did find with Cowork is it is very forgiving. So if you forget a step, you can easily just go back and repair that. Okay, so here's my contract. I could very easily have gone into Google Drive or, to access the file, but I wanted to see if I could just take it right from my hard drive, and it does. It reads it right from my hard drive. I uploaded it, and this is my dummy contract. This is a cleaning company called Sterling Cleaning, and it was just I had Chat GPT create this for me. It was just a dummy contract so that I could see in a real world situation if something like this would work. So it just created, I think it's an 18-page dummy test contract. Now what it's doing is it's reading the file, and it's telling me all of the information that it's extracting from the contract. So I wanted it to have enough fields in it so that it would it would be more than something really simplistic. I wanted it to have, some built-in fees and timelines and things like that. So this is what the dummy contract says that I just uploaded. So now, the next thing I need to do is I have a I have the information for the new client, and the new client is asking me for the information. So I'm going to go ahead, and I created some replacement fields that I wanted to use. And this is for a different company. It's Sunbelt Office Solutions. It has a completely different address, completely different project name, contact information, and so forth. So all of this, what I did is I put it in a text file. So I've got that in my file set now. So now it's thinking, it's looking at all this information that I want to populate into the contract. Okay, I have all the replacement values. Let me now build the full contract. So it's building out a completely new contract. And it should show a chart where it's going to show the old value and it's going to show the new value right in the dashboard. And then it's going to show the brand new contract pop up on the right hand column, if it all goes according to plan. And you can see in the right hand column, what it's working on right now, creating new client contract right here. We're at this step right here. And it's simply showing that we used a PDF file. Here's the new client contract. It just popped up. I have all the replacement values. Let me now build the full contract. Validation passed. Let me do a quick text extraction to verify all the key fields are correct. Clean replacement. Let me mark everything complete. Okay. So we have here the new client info, Sunbelt Office Solutions. This is the agreement, services to be provided. So this is a completely new client that extracted information from the first contract. It's showing here on the left, all 14 fields were replaced correctly. Here's a quick confirmation of what changed. We have the old information replaced with the new information. It's showing a kind of like a check box of everything that we want to make sure worked. Here's the new client contract. And then I want to show you the list of steps that we went through. So here's our progress page here. Everything has been completed. We have the old contract, we have the new contract. The last one I did, it showed the original in the right-hand column, and then it showed another file with the new contract. So I'm not sure why it didn't show the original. That I'm not quite sure. But you can see how quickly replacing information from one contract to the next. You just have to have all of your fields completed. These could easily be set up as a template of some type, and you just completely, you just fill in the fields. Now, I did want to understand, this is just one-off, but what if I wanted to turn this into an automation? Because what if this company uses this same contract, but they use it on a regular basis? So I did want to ask that question. And what I asked it to do next is I just said, now create an automation with these instructions. And I actually asked Claude what the instructions should look like before I even punch this in here. But this is what I came up with. So now I'm asking it to create an automation based on what we just set up. I'll build all 4 components, a full automation guide as a plus a standalone. Let me write them now. So it's actually writing a standalone guide in addition to. Now that could be because the first time I ran this through, I first of all asked it for the automation, and then I said, well, I don't know what to do with this automation. I'm not an automation expert. So I actually asked for a step-by-step guide in addition to what the automation would look like. So this time around, it is creating the automation guide for me automatically, which is great. So it has a lot to do with setting up your memory on the front end of when you're setting up your account with Claude Cowork. It's mappingmake.com workflow right up here on the right hand side. And then it's going to write a proposal to contract automation demo. And then it's going to give me a deliverable file. So when I ran this the first time, it gave me a complete guide, and it gave me the tech stack of what I needed to create an automation. It gave step-by-step instructions of how to set it up, what to do. And I have not gone through that step yet, but I wanted to share with everyone what Cowork's capabilities are when it comes to um, using some very simple prompting, how to really, set up some great tools for a client. Um, okay, so, okay, um, we have a playbook now. It's telling us what we have in the playbook. It's a full reference table, placeholders for your Word template, plus instructions. It's telling me my tech stack that I'm going to need. This is an 11-page playbook of what I need to do. So I'm going to be experimenting with this further, layering what I've learned from some of these very simple requests from Cowork, and I'm going to be experimenting on how I can actually maybe even implement this into make.com workflow. So we've got our extraction schema, which I am not 100% sure where I'm going to put this yet, but I'll figure it out. And then we have contract automation playbook, where it's showing us step by step what we should be doing with the with this information so that we can set up an automation. It's got all of these variables ready for us, ready to go. It's really breaking it down very nicely. And then here's the new client contract that we created today. Our original contract was a company called Sterling Property Management, and it changed it out for us. It changed out all this information for us pretty darn quickly. So here's all the old information on the contract, and here's all the new information. So I learned a lot by just asking Claude Cowork what his capabilities are, just based on an idea. And I wanted to share that in case anyone is thinking about starting to use Claude Cowork, or this may be very basic for some viewers today, but I thought it was a really exciting way to start using Claude Cowork and how we can start helping our clients. So I hope you enjoyed these brief references regarding Claude Cowork. We covered some basic getting started, um, getting started with how to set up your account, where to go to set it up, and then just talked about some basic plugins where you can get your account all set up properly. And then I gave a couple of small examples of how I started to use it in my business, connecting Slack and having a digest delivered to me every morning at 7 a.m. Now it's automated for me. And then the other thing I just showed you was, okay, let's take this a little further. Let's just kind of layer it and have a little more complicated of a task, but not terribly complicated. And that was extracting information from a contract and replacing it with new information. So I hope you enjoyed these tutorials on how to get started with Claude Cowork, and I would love to hear anyone's feedback. I hope you have a wonderful day.